Welcome back to Mostly Thriving, where to the world it may look like we're thriving, but really we're just
Mostly thriving.
Welcome back to Mostly Thriving. I know it's a little weird today. We're not in studio, and it's going to get weirder because Amanda's not here. Today we have a very special guest to me, and actually I think to a lot of you guys now, and you may not know it, and you may not know him, but my grandpa is here today in our makeshift studio, Dr. Ron Isaacson. Today we are filming from Florida. We didn't want to miss this week because we're off on vacation, sort of. We're at the National Veterinary Conference, the VMX conference in Orlando, and we thought it'd be fun to bring on my grandpa today, Ron Isaacson, DVM, the pioneer of small animal medicine, largely, for sure in my life, whose career started all the way back in
1963, they graduated.
1963. And where'd you graduate from, Papa?
Iowa State University. At Iowa State, by far the most important aspect was large animal. Small animal was 5 or 10% of our studies.
And what made you interested in small animal? You're out in the farm country of Iowa.
Right. Of course, you had to have a basic love for animals, but I wasn't that rugged individual. I liked indoor, sterile, high tech, high class, that you just didn't get out in the farm. So small animal became a passion of mine early on.
Did you have any veterinarians in your family?
Yeah, my uncle was a large animal veterinarian in Tennessee, and I used to go down and ride with him, and knowing that that's probably not what I wanted. I probably didn't care to get out in the sub-zero weather and deliver calves out in the field. And
now you said something that's just totally foreign to me, and I'm sure it's foreign to a lot of people. You said you rode with him. What does that mean?
Farm to farm, farm to farm. He takes the appointments in the morning and goes to farm all day long. And it's hard physical work, and the economics was not there also.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of one story you've always told me, and I'm wondering if you remember it. But when you were with your Uncle Lloyd, and something about manure and a needle, and maybe your hand, I can't remember.
Oh yeah, we'd go out and we'd vaccinate hogs, and you do them very rapidly. And the doctor would have 3 syringes in 2 hands, and we were out in the pig pens, and there'd be holders. They'd hold the pig between their legs, and you'd stick them with one and stick them with the other, and then you'd put the other in them. And I was the guy that would hold the syringes after he was done, carrying them back to the car. And they were full of everything that you can imagine with a pig that was on these needles. And I was going, I kind of stumbled a little bit, and the syringe went in the air, and I went to catch it, and it went right through my hand. That needle, yeah, it was.
Did you just pull it back out? I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, pulled it back out, and I was sick to my stomach. My uncle, he didn't mind.
Throw some iodine on it and move on.
I knew that there was pig manure on that, and it was in my hand and now in my body, and yeah, I was a little concerned.
Yeah, so people love when I talk about vet med. I can't imagine what they're going to think when they hear you talking about it. I think it's fun to compare here in 2026. I can't wait to take you to the conference, kind of show you around and show you what it's like, what they're offering now compared to what they were offering 30, 40, 50 years ago. So super interesting to hear those stories. Definitely some of my favorites.
Okay. There was a huge gap between what my uncle had, went through in his youth, in his young veterinary career. And Madison, where I was at, was much more advanced than what he did. Now I look at you, I look at Dixie, and you also are much more advanced than I ever was. So that's just what veterinary medicine's done. It's matured, it's grown to a very sophisticated level.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've talked about on the podcast was my story of vet school and the path that I had to go to. People know that I think in general that I worked at your clinic, Madison Veterinary Hospital, for my life. But then kind of tell the story from your side of it. Your grandson's working for you. Your son is also a veterinarian. We've never really talked about that, but that doesn't really pertain to this story. We thought I was going to get in.
Yeah, why did I think he was going to get in? Because he had all the attributes of a veterinarian at a very young age. And yeah, when I wrote probably a dozen referrals down through the years for young veterinarians applying to veterinary school. And when TJ came along and it's his time to go in, it was very easy writing for him because he had absolutely all the attributes necessary for a pre-vet student and get into veterinary school.
Yeah, and so then I applied once, didn't get in. I applied twice, and then I didn't get in. And I took a year off, and the kind of fascinating part of the story for everybody is that I would drive past 12 Mile Road on I-75, right past his clinic, every single day when I was coming home from my job at Jefferson North Assembly Plant in the bowels of Detroit. And honestly, I really never stopped. I was getting home to my new wife, my soon-to-be wife, and I'd given up on veterinary medicine. And then one day, you called me, and you said, "Hey, stop in at Madison." What happened? Why did you do that? Why did you put me into this? What happened?
Oh, that's a good story, TJ, because you can call it fate, you can call it faith, you can call it he's got that calling. I just knew that he would be not a good veterinarian, he'd be an excellent veterinarian. He had all the assets. So I, through prayer and my life was trying to be based on faith-based. I just got that message that have him try one more time. Why? Because a huge thing happened between the first two times he didn't get in and the third time when he applied, is that the first two times, for some strange reason, they didn't give interviews. I mean, it doesn't even make sense, does it, to have somebody choose a career for the rest of their life and they don't even get to interview them. And I knew TJ had excellent personal skills. He had skills of communication. And so when I found that out, I said, this is absolutely to apply to get in. And sure enough, he applies and he's one of the first ones accepted. Because they got to know him. They got to know what he could do, and they were very impressed with his resume. And sure enough, you were in the first round.
And when I called you to tell you that I think the first school that I got into was Lincoln Memorial out in Tennessee. What was that feeling like? Were you as shocked as I was? Were you just confident? How were you feeling?
No, I was not shocked. I was pleased. I was saying, yes, he's at least now I know he's going to be a DVM. And we went down, as you recall, we went down to the school together.
Yeah, we did.
And it was look and see, and it was okay. They were going to graduate and be a DVM from there, but it did. It left a lot to be desired compared to what I knew Michigan State and even now Iowa State, where I graduated from. So, but at least you're going to be a DVM, okay?
Yeah.
And then you applied in Arizona, right?
Yep, we applied in Arizona, and then I got in there, and then I was actually waitlisted to even get an interview at Michigan State. And in all this, we were at Madison. I was practicing how to interview. I mean, you guys were grilling me and making sure that I was ready. And I mean, I didn't really walk away from any of those interviews thinking that I left any points out that I didn't want to get in. I felt like they knew me as a person, and I mean, it was definitely thankful that you guys had trained me on how to get my points across, despite the questions that they might be asking. So definitely that played a big role. And then I got the interview at Michigan State, and it was nothing like any sort of interview I had been in ever. It's the multiple mini interviews where you go room to room to room, and it's just scenario after scenario that they throw you into. And even then, I was just confident, walked out, and I felt like I did a good job. And if I didn't get in, I just didn't get in. It wasn't meant to be. That's how I felt. So that's what it was like for me getting into vet school in 2016. Well, I guess that was 2015 going into 2016. Take us back to the 60s, 50s really, when you got into vet school for the first time.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, Iowa State was all large animal, hogs and cattle and some horses, but only a little bit about dogs. Nothing on cats really. So when I applied, I had to predict what they were going to ask me and try to impress them with my skills. And I didn't have any skills in large animals. So I had to, in my interview, I said, here's what I'm going to have them get out. No matter what their question was, here's what their answer is going to be. And so I was on the weightlifting team. I was 120 pounds and 5'2", applying to a large animal school. So
you were ready to throw some cattle around.
Yeah, right. So I really didn't have anything physical characteristics that impressed the board on. So I had to explain to them, yeah, I was on the weightlifting team, and I rode with my uncle in Tennessee, and I knew how to lift legs and draft horses and things like this to show them that at least I was a candidate. Never in the interview did I tell them I was interested in small animal. That would have eliminated me right now. So it was just a whole different world. And then when I went to school, I had to study large animal. And so, yeah, you studied large animal and know everything about large animals. And but again, very little about dogs. Fortunately, I was offered a job with my uncle in Tennessee, and I sure didn't want that. I knew I didn't want that. And so I applied to an internship out in Massachusetts, and it was a small animal, MSPCA, Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and it was outstanding. It was a great internship, and it got me on the right direction.
Now, I had an experience in vet school being the small animal guy. Now, we were all small animal, a majority of our class. I would say 80%. I had an experience that was similar to, I think, a lot of experiences you had, was I got out on the farm, and these large animal people were going to make the small animal guy look like an idiot. And it was time to go get a sheep. And you go into the pen with the sheep, and they all scatter. And they said, who's going to go start to get the sheep? And they said, TJ is. And they thought I was going to get in there and not catch a sheep. And I picked one sheep out, and I went right in there and got it right by the jaw, and I lifted it up, sat it back in record time, faster than the large animal people. Yeah. Do you have any experiences like that?
I do. And, you know, it's, again, they see this young city boy, myself, that didn't know anything about large animal. And so we were out at the farm. We were going to what's called bleeding the pig. We had to get a blood sample from the pig, and you had to for state inspection of certain diseases. And the procedure was there's an exact landmark on the neck where you had to go in and get into the jugular, and actually into the carotid. You needed a artery, and these. My fellow students when they're hitting the vein, and very close to that is a vagus nerve, and when you hit that vagus nerve, the animal gets paralyzed. It just passes out, really.
Just a little trial and error.
Yeah, so for some reason, TJ, your grandpa knew where to put that needle. And I put that needle and pulled the syringe back. Oh my gosh, I got blood. Surprised me. And so the other students weren't missing it, and the farmer said, listen, I want that little guy to come out here and do the sticking. We had all these pigs that were passing out, and I was just sticking in, getting the blood, and sticking in and getting the blood. And yeah, I was a hero for an hour.
For an hour.
Yeah.
For an hour. Yeah,
Right.
that's like when we had to learn how to do the tail vein on the cows. You're lifting this cow tail up, and they're heavy, and you're putting everything over your shoulder, and you're hitting that thing while it's pooping and peeing, diarrhea all over the place. And yeah, we would hit that vein, and me and my small animal friend Drew, we would get out of there. And we hit our one, and we were gone. So that was good.
You heard him say pooping and all over you, peeing all over you. Another reason that I didn't want to be in a large animal.
That's a very good, very, very good reason. Here, I'll give you another reason why I don't want to be in a large animal. One time we were out on the dairy farm, and us small animal people, I mean, we really put our heart and soul into these treatment plans for these animals. I mean, you might have a dog or a cat hospitalized for a week, and it's not looking that much better than it did at the beginning of the week, but the owner's bought in, you're bought in, your staff is bought in, everybody's ready to go. And that's what I was doing out on the farm. And I had this cow that I'm working on. I'm tirelessly working on it, and freezing. It's in the the polar vortex period of January for Michigan, and I'm treating this cow, and we round on it, and rounds is where you get together with the whole class or the whole group of students that are out there, and you talk about your case, and then the professor or the doctor will ask you questions, and what are you going to do next? And I'm really into this, and that takes a lot for us small animal people to get into a cow. And I'm thinking this cow is turning the corner, and they say, okay, good rounding. Everybody go into this room, and we go into this kind of tin room on the inside of the barn, and they said, we're gonna euthanize a cow, and okay, no big deal. And I hear this big boom, like a gun went off, and okay, I guess that's what we do. And I walk out, and my cow was shot in the head. The cow that I had been working on all week long, they shot in the head, and that was it. That was my large animal out on the dairy farm experience. Sad day, but
very, very similar story 50 years previous. You go out to the farm, let's say there's sick pigs, and they immediately euthanize the pig, do an autopsy out there, get some samples, send it to the lab, and we all go home. A few days later, you get the results of the lab test back, you go back out and treat the rest of the herd. And that was my height of my experience.
Wow.
That's how I learned. You can't do that in small animal. That just doesn't work.
No.
So we had to start all over from scratch when I started interning.
But I'll tell you this: the cows got their revenge on me because one day we had to go out and get the temperatures of all the calves, and all the calves were sick with diarrhea, and when you get into the little pen with the cows, and it's no bigger than this chair, and you get in there and you kind of got to hip check them into the wall, and then get under their tail and stick a thermometer that's this long and get a rectal temperature. That's what we're doing. And all of them had awful diarrhea. And I tell you what, within 2 weeks after that day, I lost 12 pounds. Because I got whatever the cows had. I had crypto, and there was a medicine we had to take, and I think there was like 5 or 6 of us on that rotation that got it. And I was the first one, so I'm kind of warning everybody. This is what you're going to experience, and it's not good. And then you get the medicine, and by the time you get the medicine, by the way, the medicine is $900 for I think 3 pills. I get the medicine, and I am on death's door, I think. And I go to pee, and my urine is bright green, and I thought, this is it.
Hardly ever good.
The cows got me, and but hey, resiliency was there, and we both made it through large animal medicine. Yeah. You way more than I did, but we had our trials. All right, tell me a little bit about your faith and what role that has played in your career. Obviously, that pours into your personal life and has been, a big impact on my life as well. But how did that play into your career as a veterinarian?
Well, TJ, early on, I learned that everything I had in life was a gift from the Lord, and I was challenged to use it according to His purpose, and just faith and knowing, having that wisdom to know right from wrong. Gives you live an upright life, and it continued on when I had my children and my wife and my children, and also in choosing a staff for the hospital. They knew where I was at spiritually, and we developed a staff that was on the same page, and we all had pet advocate as our number one purpose, but we also know we're going to conduct ourselves in a manner that's pleasing to the Lord.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely aspire for the same deal for my faith and my career. So,
absolutely.
What was your favorite part about being a veterinarian? That can be all 57 years.
Yeah.
That can be early on or later on. What was it?
Well, you can kind of divide my experience into 3 groups. I absolutely loved pets. I love dogs, and I love cats, but I love dogs, and then I further love puppies. And I really, it was like having a breath of fresh air every time a puppy would come in. So I miss the puppies. I miss the animals. The second part would be the staff. We had a very loyal staff. We had small turnover. And so it was kind of like a large family. We had a large practice. There was like 30 employees.
Yeah.
And each one had faith and trusted each other. And
Yeah.
we worked together. So the animals I miss, the staff I miss, and I miss the clients.
Yeah.
I miss the clients a lot. I mean, we as you know, we are doctors from cradle to grave.
Yeah.
And so you would notice that you'd get a puppy in and you'd be with him his whole life. 12, 14, 16 years later, when it come time for the ending, it was, so you got to know the client well. And I missed all three of them.
Yeah, I'm still early enough in my career that I haven't seen I haven't seen the puppy go from puppy to senior to death stages, but I have seen, that golden retriever puppy come in and it's a 4-year-old little boy or little girl, and now they're 8-year-old dog, 9-year-old dog, and those kids are now 10 and 12 years old, and watching them grow is with the dog is really fun. And I think that kind of gets into one of your favorite things to talk about. One of your favorite parts of veterinary medicine as a career is that emotional paycheck.
Emotional paycheck, absolutely. Every day, something would happen that was very rewarding. Like he said, it could be a child whose dog went from death to life in your hands. It could be an old senior citizen that's the last thing they had to cuddle and fondle, and you could give them a little bit more time with that pet. And that's the emotional paycheck, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've definitely had more emotional paychecks than paychecks in veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
And that's been, you talked to me about that going into this field, and it's been through and through every single day, and so I do love that.
It kind of reminds me of, you asked why I wanted to be a veterinarian, and you list all the things, and someplace on that list has to be a financial reward, but it has to be down the list. You can't go into the business and say, I'm going to make a lot of money. The dollars will take care of themselves if you're the pet advocate, and think first of the pet. What's best for the pet? What's best for the client? Dollars will take care of themselves.
Yeah, and you always said that there was never any pressure for me to be a veterinarian. That was when I was in the 4th grade. I sat down and I had a paper to write, and it was, what do you want to be? And it was list the 5 to 10 things, and you always said that number 1 can't be the money. The money will happen with what you do, but number 1 can't be money.
Right.
It can be in the top 5, but it can't be number 1.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it will be on everybody's list. Everybody in their profession, there has to be a financial reward.
Yeah, we got to live. So, okay, we've talked about the fun ins and outs of veterinary medicine. What was the hardest? What was the hardest thing for you? This could be as a doctor, as a practice owner. You could tell me both, or you could just tell me one. What's the hardest part about veterinary medicine when you look back on 57 years?
Yeah, right when I started interning, as I told you, I was very diminutive. I was when I graduated from veterinary school, I was still like 5'3" or 5'4" and weighed about 130 pounds. And when I was I'd go into the exam room and where I was interning, and I'd do my thing. I'd examine the animal and give a whole description of what I found, and then they'd say, "Well, is the doctor coming in?" And that would happen on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that was a little humiliating, but actually the hardest part for me in the profession is as business owner. As owner, you had 2 responsibilities. You had to have a staff that you took care of, and you paid them well, and you had to have a facility that was state of the art. You had and all that. Yeah, it's very, very expensive. And then there's the budget of pricing to have the right amount. So always there's a fine detail of having too much staff, not enough staff.
Yeah.
You need enough staff to take care of the business that the clients demand, but you can't have too many because you can't afford them. So that was balancing that with income, and it was never the right staff.
Yeah.
It was never just the right amount. It's always too few or too many. But that was a challenge. That was the challenge of ownership. That it was hard, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we've learned that in 2.5. We've only been open 2.5 years, and as soon as you think you're good on staff, you're not good on staff.
Right, yeah.
I've had that conversation with Kristen many times in just 2 years of, boy, it feels like we're doing pretty good right now. One of us will say it, and we'll go, Can't wait to see what's around the corner because it feels too good right now.
Yep. That's
I think for me the hardest part is the demands of clients. I think that as the standard of care, and you've definitely seen the standard of care of veterinary medicine increase, so have the expectations and demands of clients.
Yes.
And seeing clients, and you've experienced it, they don't beat up on you and I nearly as bad as they do the staff. And seeing people treat our staff poorly, that's been the hardest part for me.
Right.
Is seeing our staff who work so hard and they're so the pet's advocate and wanting to do what's best for you, and their heart is so in it. Again, they're not in it for the big bucks. They're not in it for the money.
Exactly.
And they're just trying to help, and then they get beat up.
You know, and that's part of educating your client. As here's who we are, here's our job description, here's our mission statement, and if this satisfies you, good. We're your doctor. If this doesn't fit your needs, then we can give you a referral down the street.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you've always been very confident in, and I'm confident with my staff, is that we're not a good fit for everybody.
Sure.
Everybody doesn't want the top of the line, top quality pet care, and that's okay. That's the standard of care and the spectrum of care in veterinary medicine. So that's always good for us to remember too. You're retired now. What was that like transitioning into retirement? I feel like veterinarians don't retire well. They have a hard time stepping away. And honestly, you can ask my staff, you can ask my mom, my wife, I think I'm going to retire pretty well. But how did you feel?
Yeah.
I know it could change after 57 years in this field. I'm willing to accept that maybe I won't be ready, but at 34 years old, I feel like I'll retire just fine at 50.
Yeah. TJ, I was blessed. As I said earlier, I had a large staff, well-educated staff, well-prepared staff, and I started retiring very gradually. I was a 5-day, well, it doesn't matter the hours, it was long hours, but I would take Wednesdays off.
Yeah.
And then a year or so later, I would take the night that I worked, I'd take that night off. And next thing you know, I took Saturdays off. And then so come down to the point after 4 or 5 years, I was working one day in the surgery and one day in the office and as seeing pets. So I retired slowly and gradually and then stopped.
Yeah.
And it was I can just say it was beautiful. It was wonderful because the staff saw me coming down from a racehorse down to a crawl. Yeah. And it was good. And that's what I wish you could do.
Yeah. I plan on it.
Yeah.
I definitely plan on that. Let's just go back a few years. And you come from Massachusetts, you're working at a small animal practice in Birmingham, and then you decide you're going to open Madison Veterinary Hospital. You built a building. A lot of people don't build buildings anymore. There's nowhere to do that. How did that go? Where did you go, to find a place to build? I mean, right now people can't even fathom that. I have a friend looking for a place in Tampa, and the building themselves, not the plot of land, not to build a building, the building itself, just to buy, is going to be around $2 million.
Yeah.
How has that changed?
Well, you could ask my daughters and my son. I'd come home from work at whatever hour I'd get off, and we'd all get in the car and go looking for land. And we did that for several months. I had about a 9 square mile that I was going to try to find land in that area, and either it wasn't zoned properly or it was too expensive. And finally, we found a chunk of land in a really busy area, 12 Mile and John R. And found the land, and down through the years I had saved, it sounds silly, but I used to put the money in a sock. I'd go to do an emergency, on-call emergency, and I got a little piece of the money, and I saved it, and through the blessing of that, of 3 or 4 years of saving, my father was very instrumental in helping me, and a client was a president of a bank. And between the three of us, we put together the exact amount of money necessary to open up, and it was, on day one, it was successful.
Yeah.
We were able to pay our bills on day one.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then tell me about, for me, I can't even fathom these emergency calls in the middle of the night. We are strictly a 9 to 5 veterinary hospital, Monday through Friday. It seems like people probably don't understand what the life of a veterinarian was in those days.
Our hours were 7:30 in the morning till 9 at night. Yeah. And it wasn't just me working, but it was early on. It was, and I had the philosophy of being there when the client needed me. I totally agree with you, the lifestyle you have. I totally agree with that. But when I was starting, I had to be there. Had to be there, and it wasn't just the money. It was the client. I had this passion for being there to satisfy the needs of the client and the needs of the pet, and we'd work 6 days a week, and then gradually added staff. The hours stayed the same. Even till the day I left, we had 9 hours was the closing time at night. I repeat, I would never do that now. I would say as I said, I had a very loyal staff. They worked very hard and were loyal to the practice, but I would be much more in their realm to give them not to work that late of hours.
Yeah. Well, I think about all the clients. You hear people in the comments, or if you guys want to, share your memory with your veterinarian. People have memories with their veterinarian. The time that they saved Fluffy, or they came to the house and helped. And honestly, I will never touch the amount of times that you did that because of those stories and the emergency trips, whether it was into the clinic or to somebody's house or whatever it may be. And so, I think that that's very cool to have that legacy go on. Now, there was one story for sure that you saved my dog, maybe not saved, but you were doing an emergency call into Madison, and I wasn't able to be there, but Riley, the OG of the best dog ever, my Sheltie, was attacked by Amanda's dog, Sammy. And I have my side of the story that I could only hear from Amanda, but do you remember this at all?
Oh, yes, very well. Yes, very well.
How did Amanda do? She was your assistant.
Well, let's lead into that. I was alone. I had been retired.
Yeah, yes,
so
you were no longer
retired. I did still was involved in management, so I knew I could get into the hospital still, and I went in I am holding the dog. Amanda was cheering me on, and I'm trying to shave this heavy coated dog because it had a big slicing wound in its body, and I'm trying to shave it. And when the wound got exposed, I look over and there's Amanda on the floor, and I said, "Well, God, I got to keep shaving the dog. Amanda, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm shaving the dog, and I put a makeshift bandage on the dog, and I go over there, and Amanda is sweating and perspiring, and through my coaching and telling her to take deep breaths, and she revived.
All right. Well, the lesson was learned on you, because this was before I was even out of vet school. I've never taken her in to be an assistant ever.
No.
Not even if the kids are hurt, anything. I'm on my own, and it's very clear. The other thing that I think people would like to know about, and we've talked about it before on the podcast, is Amanda's entrance into this family. And the burning question of, what was it like? What were your thoughts when I came home? I think we were out to lunch, maybe at Culver's, because we did go to lunch a lot when I was in undergrad, and we definitely bowled a lot. So we were probably at Culver's or we were bowling, and I said, "Papa, I've got a new girlfriend."
Do you want me to tell you the story as it really happened?
I want to know the story.
Okay.
Oh, these people deserve to know the story.
Okay. I was a big Detroit Piston fan.
Yeah.
I had season tickets, partial season tickets,
and at the time, you lived 5 minutes from the Palace.
Yeah, right
so
there.
the Palace, for those of you who are not familiar with Detroit Pistons history, the Palace was in Auburn Hills. It's 45 minutes outside of Detroit, definitely a heavily populated area. And so that's where we all lived.
And TJ was on flight crew.
Yeah, the
They
dunk
would,
team. Yeah.
Yeah, they would run and bounce on the trampoline, do somersaults and dunks and everything. And I was really proud of him. And so he told me the stories of them. And other part of the entertainment at halftime were these lightly clad, beautiful girls out there doing their thing, doing their thing and their attractions in there. And I'd watch them. And I'd watch the men all watching them.
Yeah.
And TJ come home one day and said, Papa, I'm talking to one of the what were their names?
The Pistons dancers. Oh, they were Automotion.
Automotion.
Yeah.
I'm talking to one of the Automotion girls, and a split second later I said, no, you're not. No, you're not. And he said, yeah, she's different. I said, no, she's not. She's not different. They're a group of ladies that are very proud of their attributes, and you're not talking to them.
And let me tell you this. This man means the world to me. But when there's a woman involved, and I'm talking, he explained it very well. These are women. And he's telling me, no, now I'm conflicted. I'm going into this conversation confident. Now, mid-conversation, I'm not as confident because one of the most important men in my life is saying, it wasn't a question. It wasn't, let me hear more. Maybe she's different. It was just no.
No. And so the story goes on, and I thought that was it. Well, come days, weeks, don't remember exactly, but he said, I'd like you to meet a new friend of mine, and it's one of the automation girls. I said, what? What? And so he brought Amanda over, and I got to tell you, I was 100% wrong. She is the sweetest, nicest, non-blood member of our family. I love her very much, and TJ made a very wise decision despite his grandfather's influence.
I honestly, this whole episode was leading to that question, and now I can sleep at night. I haven't been sleeping at night. I feel so much better knowing that. All right, I just want to close with this, is that one piece of advice, it could be veterinary, it could be not veterinary, it could be entrepreneur to entrepreneur, it could be a husband, wife, it could be anything. What's one piece of advice? I know that's a broad-based question, but narrow it in for me and any of our listeners.
Yeah.
As a very successful entrepreneur veterinarian that I look up to, and I know the people who listen to this episode are going to look up to and cherish this.
Yeah, TJ, and the good part of it is you're doing much of this. Is that I'd have my mission statement. I'd have it written, and I'd have it. The staff create their mission statement, who they are. Madison was we are a professional staff committed to providing excellent care through teamwork and continued education for every client, every pet, every time. And that staff made that, and we live by that, and we talked about it. So a mission statement and a job description that puts your values, what you choose as a veterinarian for your practice to be. Ours was pet advocate. We wanted what's best for the pet, and then live by that. And there's really no exceptions. When a decision has to be made about a pet, go right to your mission statement, go right to your job description, and stay with it.
Yeah.
Have an entire staff buy into it.
Yeah, and I like that too. Just as that's as a veterinary business or a veterinary clinic, that can be for your life too. And
Absolutely.
I think your mission statement for your life is very apparent, and it's shown throughout this episode and how important your faith is to you. And so, I think that's great. Great message, great words. I think that's good for today. I think that was a good episode. It's been one I've wanted to do for a long time, and looking forward to just having it forever in the archives to be able to look back on this in 2026, talking to my grandfather here at the National Veterinary Convention. I'll never forget it. So thank you for listening. Follow us on Instagram. You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Like, share, subscribe, give us some comments, give us your thoughts on this episode. I really enjoyed it, so hope you guys did too. Next week, we'll be back in studio with Amanda, I think, but that's if we survive Disney coming up this week. So we're taking the kids to Disney. We're going to recap this whole trip and our time in Orlando and our trip to Disney with the kids. We'll see you.